Hello, and again, welcome to Bit Depth. I'm Santiago Ramones. Across from me is...
Patrick Conlon.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, for sure.
So, as always, to start, who are you? What do you do?
So I'm Patrick Conlon. I'm a composer and violinist. I'm the assistant director at ACM, and I like making music.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's start with composing. How did music first make its way to your life?
Cool. So, way back in my wee years as a little kid in Ottawa, Canada, until I was 6 or 7, we lived with my grandparents. So my mom's parents sort of like helped raise me during those first few years.
Sure.
Kind of normal kid thing.
Yeah.
And they had a piano. And I think there's a picture of me when I'm like 6 months old, like sitting on my granddad's lap playing
Nice.
the piano. And from the beginning, so I started violin at, I think I was 7 or 8, or I know I wasn't 6. I think it was 7. And I remember we went and saw a concert my grandmother was actually the first female music critic for a major newspaper in Canada.
Cool.
And so she went to like all of the shows that would happen at the National Arts Center. And I remember I went to the National Arts Center. I do not remember who this guy was, but he was this very nervous, like 18-year-old Russian violinist.
Cool.
I remember being like, what he did was super badass.
Yeah.
And so my parents asked me, my sister played piano, and they asked me when I was like 6 or 7, like, hey, what instrument do you want to play? And I was like, I want to play violin.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I'd just seen that concert. And I was
Yeah.
like, that was cool. But I remember, I have no idea. I bet this kid's someone famous now. But it's like, I didn't know then how weird it was. But I remember they asked him to play an encore.
Yeah.
And he just played like a C major scale really fast. And then went back off stage. Like, I think he did not have like an encore ready. So he just played some like, I could be remembering this wrong. This is like decades ago.
Right.
But
And you're also very small.
yes. But yeah, and so I liked playing on the piano from age, I don't know, 2 or 3. And I would always make stuff up. Like, I always would spend more of my time making stuff up on the instruments than I would practicing, much to all of my teachers' chagrin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when was your first, I guess, big attachment to music? Even better is, at what point did you decide that music was going to be your life?
So I don't think I really made a hardcore decision about it until maybe sophomore, junior year of high school. So kind of the 2 extracurriculars that I did the most of were I played soccer pretty competitively until I was 15 or 16. I know around 14 I started having, it was sort of like, I played on a competitive team for like a year and a half, 2 years, and it got to the point where it was like, I had violin lessons and then I had rehearsal, and like I ran out of days to do both at the level. Like, soccer was supposed to be, you'd have Saturday and Sunday games. There was Tuesday rehearsal. Practice. Then they had Wednesday. They wanted to start doing like runs, and so it was two practices, 2 games, and then they were going to add in like a, staying in shape, getting in better shape day.
Sure.
And I was just like, that's on top of my violin lesson. I can't.
Yeah.
I remember my coach said like, well, you have to choose one. And I remember being like, cool, I choose violin. And then I quit the team.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, if you're giving me an ultimatum,
Yeah.
the person giving me the ultimatum is not going to make it.
Yeah.
I also remember around there, it was like, so soccer in the US has gotten bigger, but I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be a professional violinist, and at least I'll make more money than I would if I tried to be a professional soccer player. So it was like, hey, I'm making the right economic choice for my financial future.
Yeah.
But I've always I like the act of creating art. And so like I drew a lot in middle school, was not very good at it. I've always written a lot. So like literature, poetry, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I know about sophomore year, like freshman, sophomore year, I was in a band, I would do all these things. And I kind of realized like, hey, you know, I like reading as much as I like making music.
Yeah.
And I like writing, and I was interested in like video game design because I really liked how you could like, there were a couple games that had like modding, so you could, I used them really as more film things than actually how you're supposed to. So like you could have a 3D camera, and then like there was a narrative, so you wrote all the text for it. I did voiceovers for it, and custom skins, and kind of like, I didn't do it the way you were supposed to do it. It was really more of a narrative. And I kind of just had this realization that like, hey, the music thing, like the other ones, there was someone else at the school who did it and was better than me. And on the music thing, there wasn't. So I was like, hey, maybe this is my art. This is going to be the artistic outlet.
Sure.
And it just kept becoming more and more a part of my life. And I was like, cool, let's try it.
So what has been your major goal throughout your career?
So my one major goal,
if there is one.
So there's like a funny one. So I had my first, I think I was 13 was my first professional gig. Like there was a retirement party that wanted a string quartet, and there was always like one string quartet at the high school that would play them. And the senior who usually played second violin in it couldn't do it, so I filled in. I made like $100
Cool
for like 2 hours of work playing chamber music.
Heck yeah.
And I kind of did this thing where I was like, so I was a big thing of like, my parents were always, if you get straight A's and you get a scholarship to pay for college, you don't have to get a job. Basically, if you get a B, you're getting a job.
Sure.
Like, you're going to pay for college one way or the other.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had this thing. I mean, it's like good and bad. It probably would have been good for me to work a job at some point. But I kind of made this pact with myself of like, hey, I'm going to see if I can never work a real job in my life. Like, everything's going to be music related. And I've pulled it off.
Yeah.
So far, I mean, we're almost 20 years later, and I still have yet to work a quote unquote non-music or a real job.
Yeah.
And for me, that gave it kind of a cool. It was interesting. Like so a lot of people always talk about like their plan Bs and stuff. I never had a plan B because it was always working.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's just luck and all of those things. But like, I don't know. It was like there wasn't there wasn't a plan B. I was like, I'll deal with that if I have to deal with that.
Sure.
But like, I'm not going to give myself an out.
Yeah. And then what brought you to the States?
So when I was around 10, I think this was like, I think it was 2000 was the year. Because I remember going back and watching Y2K happen with like my best bud back in Canada. But it was like we were staying with them because we had moved to the States that year. So I think it was like maybe fall of 1999, I think is when we moved. My mom got a gig. She got a tenured professor position at OU, which she'd been working towards for forever. Those positions are like impossible to get. So we moved to Oklahoma. I think I was in 5th or 6th grade, something like that. 5th? I think I was in 5th grade. No, I was in 4th grade. And I really loved the experience of being an immigrant. Because it's like, I don't know, I look like a lot of other Canadians who are in Ottawa. There's a big Scotch-Irish population there. Um, and I really enjoyed being a minority with a group of other minorities from other places. Like there was this very like, my parents found all the Canadians that were in Norman, Oklahoma, so we knew all of them.
Sure.
But then it was like I had, there's a Greek family I got really close with in high school. There's a guy from Germany that I hung out with for a while. Like it was cool. Like you became part of this like, your people are immigrants.
Yeah.
So you get everybody who isn't from there, which is cool. And you have all these shared experiences going through the same immigration system.
Yeah.
So for me, I always took it as like, it was a real positive for me. And I've since like, I got my American citizenship, I think 4 or 5 years ago. And like, I always present myself as Canadian American, as like, I was Canadian, and then I became Canadian American. Like, it's like a timeline for me. And it's interesting. There's a lot of like, people get weird about nationalities. Like I know when my granddad was kind of like, at the end, he was like, "You're not Canadian anymore." And I was like, I want to have a discussion with you about whether or not nation states are actually something that's worthwhile. But it was an interesting, it was an interesting thing. And there is a little, it's like I'm not 100% Canadian anymore, but I'm definitely not 100% American anymore.
Yeah.
And the people who I am like, oh, we have the same experiences, are like first generation immigrants who moved here when they were young. And I go like, oh, we've had the same, like, there's a country that like you take a lot of your cultural cues from, but you left young enough that like, I've got a ton of family up there, but it's like, I see them once every 3 or 4 years usually. Right. So like, I got to connect back with a bunch of them like over the last couple of years because my parents retired back to there. And my sister's in Ottawa and my aunt and uncles are there. It's the whole family is within like Ottawa, Toronto area. But it's a neat, for me, it's a neat thing to be a part of.
Yeah. And I totally feel that too, being an immigrant myself. And it's kind of weird because I get like friend requests from people with my last name, and I'm like, I don't know you, but we are family apparently.
Right.
But yeah, I also have like a million cousins. So
I have a pretty small family. My dad's side has there's some cousins there. My mom's side of the family is like, it's a very small family tree.
Yeah, well, my mom has like 7 sisters or something like that.
Nice.
So. Going back to making music, what's your favorite instrument to write for?
Well, I mean, like, it's cheating, but writing for string instruments.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's like, I don't think I really learned how to write for instruments that I don't play until I was in my mid-20s. So like other people compose differently from me. I've always been like the physical act of like improvisation is where I got my entryway into music. I wasn't like, oh, I have an idea and I'm going to notate it down. It was like I played something on piano and then I want a way for someone else to play it. So for me, music notation, recording, any of that is just like, for me, you have to hear it first.
Yeah.
Like it's not, and I'm getting to the point where I can kind of tell in people's music if they could hear it.
Yeah.
Or if they put that instrument there, but didn't like hear it before they put it there. Christina and I were just listening to like a Rachmaninoff piano concerto yesterday. And it's like, for one thing, it's his instrument, but the orchestral stuff is right. It's like, it's written right. And you go like, okay, like you heard something and then figured out how to make it happen.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm still in the middle of it. I think I'll always be in the middle of it. But it's like with violin and piano, I have enough facility on those instruments that like
Yeah.
there isn't anything I can't at least play at and know how it'll sound.
Sure.
So I'd say for those, my partner Christina is a clarinetist, so like at this point I've written a lot of stuff for clarinet, and it's an awesome. It's like it has a huge range. One of the things that's cool about woodwind instruments is they really all have like at least 3
voices.
like so like the chalumeau versus the altissimo versus kind of the bass register all like sounds so different.
Yeah.
So for me, I think the last 5 years I've really been like getting comfortable with woodwind instruments. And then electronics as well. So kind of one of the things that's just it's always been in my music, but like I've written enough now that I'm starting to notice my own tropes. Is taking things that I hear that you can do with electronic instruments, like how do you make acoustic instruments through music notation do something that a guitar pedal does?
Yeah.
And so for me, that's something that's like it's really interesting because I can hear it. I know how I can hear it. How do I put it on a page and get someone to play it live? And so that's been a cool thing for me recently.
Yeah. No, I remember you seeing something that you're figuring out how to do delay as notation.
Yeah, so that was like yesterday or the day before. So I'm in the middle of I'm trying to get I should have all the notes done for it. So it's a clarinet quartet plus string quartet octet, which is actually like a huge ensemble to write for.
Yeah.
Even if you're writing for an orchestra, you never really have more than like 5 to 8 parts going at once.
Yeah, you just throw it on other
it's
things.
just voiced and like range and things like that. So it's been cool. It's been a cool mountain to climb. But there's this one section where like I didn't use a delay. Like I actually just played it because I knew what I wanted. So 3 of the clarinets do this, and basically it's a lick that slows down towards the end that is then echoed by the other 2 clarinets. So it goes like bra da da dee da be da bum. But I want the echoes of the slowdowns to happen at the same point in each phrasing, even though they start an 8th note apart. So it goes like bree 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 da 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 da.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the strings are doing this gesture that's just like bop 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 bum, plays like a chord, but it's not in time. With the clarinets. So I ended up doing a thing with stemming. So I basically like purposely made it impossible for them to count it. Like they can play the phrase and they know when to start, but like since I did the stemming wrong, like there's no way to tell where your note is supposed to be with the other person's. But we're gonna have a conductor, so it's gonna be like go go go, let them do their thing. Come back in. But it was like I had a sound that I wanted that was very specific. That notating it a different way, it's like I don't want them to be playing it rhythmically correct. I want them to be playing. Someone plays a thing and then it's echoed.
And that's something that I'm sort of constantly struggling with. It's like I know what I want this to be, but forcing it into this medium of notation takes away all of the things that I'm trying to say with it.
I think of it as like, I mean, the left brain, right brain thing is like a super simplification, but like when I compose something that's big like this, like if I'm doing a film score or something, just there's not time to do this, so you just have to knock it out. But when I'm doing like my own music, it's like usually I come up with something improvisationally, either on violin or piano. Like a lot of times for my classical stuff, I'm doing really like when I write songs, like things that I would consider like opus numbers, songs or pieces that are like this one's part of my like oeuvre, you know, this one counts. I usually am grabbing something that I came up with like 3 or 4 years before, and I have on a voice memo, and I haven't known what to do with. So it's like there's this sort of right brain of just like playing on the piano or on my violin, trying to come up with something, making like a little sketchy demo,
Yeah.
and then like waiting for the right time for it to actually be born. And so then it's like, then I look at it and I go like, well, I've got this piece that's going to be this orchestration. So like, how can I fit this thing into it?
Yeah.
And I get that. And then at some point, I usually have spent enough time thinking about it that then I do like some more improvisation, either on violin or piano. But I've spent enough time with it that I'm improving like into the piece. So like I know what the sound of the piece is. So I'm looking for the right next thing. So for this one, I've worked on it for about 6 months now, on and off. And the whole B section I really wrote like maybe a week or two ago. It was really, I was working out with Christina and she said like, hey, so originally I'm calling them verses because it's a hymn. So rather than like movements, I'm like verse 1, verse 2, verse 3. Just because it's artsy. So verse 2 is like quiet and uses harmonics, and it's kind of a theme and variations, and I'm kind of like so anytime I write a piece that's in a traditional format, really anytime I write a piece, I like to think of it as going up against all my favorite pieces of that, like throughout time, like not contemporaries. Like I'm not going against my contemporaries. Like with this piece, I'm going against like Schubert's Death and the Maiden and Crumb's Black Angels and the Paganini 24th variation and the Rachmaninoff version of the 24th Paganini variation and the Lutoslawski version of the Paganini 24th variation. I mean, like, if you're going to do a theme and variations on that Paganini thing, you're going against some of the greatest composers in history. And I like that. So it's like, is this as good?
Sure.
So like for strings especially, and for clarinets now, like I know a lot of the moves. So it's like, yeah, you do the harmonic move where they all do false harmonics and it sounds really pretty and ghostly and cool, and I know how to do that. And so I did that, and it was kind of like 4 on the floor, just playing. I'm doing a thing in the piece where like the rhythm and meter keeps expanding and contracting. But like it was basically just playing it. And Christina was like, hey, I think that section's really cool. Like if you're doing the Death and the Maiden thing, you should quote Death and the Maiden. And then if you're doing, which itself was like a Schubert string quartet based on a song he'd written that he like couldn't get the chords out of his head. You know, it's like you want to do more with it.
Yeah.
And then like just do more. So it kind of became like the 8-bar phrase. I inserted a quote from Death and the Maiden, but not the same quote that George Crumb quotes in Black Angels. It's like it's like the B section quote. So then that became like a 20 measure phrase rather than an 8 measure phrase. And then it just turned into something else that I was like, I could hear it because I'd spent the time with the piece. And so for me, so like a lot of people ask how like, especially when people are young, you know, it's like I teach. So it's like, how do I get my own sound?
Sure.
And I always think it's by like, so there's this book called Gödel, Escher, Bach, which was this guy who wrote about like what he thought AI was going to be. And he tried to use art as explanations for it. Because he was saying intelligence is when you have a recursive feedback loop. So like you do something and then you get reactions from it. And then that informs what you do next. And if you do that enough, you have an intelligence, which is very much like what Google's doing right now. It's like...
I started trying to read that book at your house.
Oh, yeah. I love it, but I was a giant math nerd. I was a mathlete, and there are math problems in it. Spoiler alert. No, I don't want to spoil it. There's a math problem in there that's very frustrating.
Yes.
And I was curious if he was doing what I thought he was doing. And he was. I don't know if I'm going to spoil that book for people. So
right.
There's a math.
It's kind of an old book and kind of niche.
Yeah. So like, there's a math problem in it where it's a logic problem of like, here are your 3 rules. You're starting with M, N, N, and N can equal M, N, and N can equal like it's a logic problem if you've ever had a logic class, and it's not solvable. And he never tells you it's solvable, but he implies that it's solvable. And so the idea is it's at the end of a chapter, and I spent like an hour trying to solve it, and I just went like, okay, this is not a solvable problem. He's screwing with me. And you turn the page, and the next chapter goes like, I never said it was a solvable problem, but the reason your intelligence is more intelligent than an artificial intelligence right now is because you can go outside the problem and go, this is not solvable.
Yeah.
I'm just going to move on. And computers literally can't. Like, if you tell it to solve that problem, it will just keep trying. It will never come to the realization that it's an unsolvable problem unless you write that into the code for it to check for.
Yeah.
And this was done in such a way that, like, there were some sort of fractal answers that, like, you could continue expanding it forever.
Yeah.
So a computer would just say, keeps going like, well, maybe if we add another MN to it, we'll get to it. And maybe if we add another one, we'll get to it. Well, we need a check.
Yeah.
And so, like, that was a really cool, I love that concept. And so, like, I think that's, so, like, I know when I was in my band in high school, we sounded like us because we probably spent like 80% of our time listening to and playing our own music every day rather than outside music.
Yeah.
So we had all these outside influences, but then, like, we just kind of kept delving deeper into our own sound and having that recursive feedback loop.
Yeah.
So eventually you, like, reach somewhere that is you.
Yeah.
And so for me, I always feel like it's a miniature of that with each piece I work on. Like, you start out and you're kind of like, the piece is fuzzy and you start to put some pieces there and it starts to come into focus.
Yeah.
And then there's a point for me where I kind of, like, break away from being in control of the decisions and just go like, this piece is part of me now.
Yeah.
So I know there's a sound that I want here, even though I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But I'll know it when I see it and I can start looking for it.
Yeah. I know that feeling because I always describe it as, was it Raphael who said that chiseling away at the marble that isn't the statue.
Right.
And so there's a piece there, there's a music there that is right.
Right.
It's what it's supposed to be. But the struggle eventually is just trying to find the piece in there.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads me to what would be, do you think you would have a magnum opus?
I hope not.
Yeah.
I think, like, if you have a magnum opus, like, I hope you're dead or retired.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to, Christina and I are kind of like, so we've been working together for 11 years. Like, there is not an art project that we don't do together.
Sure.
I'm starting to look at larger form works. So we're starting to look at doing a musical. We're doing a full-length concerto with Fort Smith Symphony in May. Once we do that, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm ready to try and write a symphony.
Sure.
You know, like, I didn't feel ready before.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was there with the orchestra yet. And, like, that's the normal thing. Like, Brahms didn't write his first symphony until he was like 45. And he wrote the Haydn Variations, which was his, like, some people love it. I think it's a pretty pedantic piece. It's really boring. But it was just him, hey, if I write this, how does it sound? Like, I'm going to take a theme that I already have, that's already written, and I'm going to write a bunch of variations so I can figure out, like, orchestral colors.
Sure.
If I do this, what sound do I get out? It's that feedback loop again.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like starting to look at bigger projects.
Yeah.
I'm starting to lean into just, like, all the stuff I was into as a kid. So, like, I've got a couple of, like, fiction books I would love to write. I don't know when I will do that. But it's like, you know, on the musical and on the books, like, we've been sketching out the world building and the story for, like, 4 years now. You know, it's a thing that's like, this is going to be, I'm starting to look at, like, 10-year and 20-year projects rather than, like, we're doing an album in January. And it's been awesome. And it's the first one where we've been in charge of everything. Like, always before, it was like, either we wouldn't be the engineer on it, or if we were the producers of it, we wouldn't be the composers on it, or the play. Like there was always
Sure.
like some element that someone else was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first one we've done where it's like we're running the whole ship.
Yeah.
And it's been great. It's been like it's been kind of a thing where we go like, hey, like let's try and do this now that we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
See how it goes. And it's been like a ton of work, but smooth.
Yeah.
And so that's been exciting. So then you go like, all right, so what's next? Like, what's the hard thing? So yeah, I mean, a lot of it for me is like, I don't know if this is like a third life crisis, but you just go like, okay, so I had all these things I wanted to do as a kid that I've worked towards. So now's the time to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like that's what you were just talking about with the album. I feel like as a composer, I try too hard to control everything. And it's partly because, I don't have the resources to give this out to someone else so that they can do it better. And so I have to do it myself. But then it's also like, they just won't do it right. And so what is that process for you in sort of triaging what you can and can't do?
So I kind of backdoored into music production. So like I was always really good with MIDI stuff. Like there was a free version of like a Finale like program called Noteworthy Composer that had like MIDI capabilities. So you could write in notation and have it play back MIDI. Cool. So I remember I had like a friend who was doing like and this was like back in the Sound Blaster 32 days. So like it sounded different depending on what sound card you had. Like there's been a lot of MIDI standardization over the last, I'd say 15 years. But back then it's like when you played a video game, you had to choose what sound card you had so it would play the right sounds. Yeah. So like you had to tell it like, hey, I have a Sound Blaster 16. And they'd be like, oh, okay, cool. Then we'll switch which sounds are happening so it sounds right-ish. Yeah. So I had a friend who was like, I was shocked that we were kind of a little art collective. It was like in middle school, so it was like me and two of my friends, and they were both really incredible artists. And one of them, she like was really good at coding and putting together video games. So it was like one of my friends would do all the textures and like I would do all the music. So I wrote like, I mean, I don't know if we ever finished it. It was just like a very simple game. But you know, there was like a snowfield and there was and so like I wrote like 45 minutes of like MIDI music for it in middle school. So I knew how to do that. And then in high school, my bandmate, so that I usually am partnered up with someone when I make art. So my bandmate, Andy, had first an analog 4-track that we recorded our first song on. So we learned how to do mix down because we had 18 parts and it was an 8-minute song. And we managed to mix it on an analog 4-track. And then he got a digital 4-track. And that's what we did a bunch of stuff on. And then we had a friend who had Cubase that like we tried to record an album at, but we just couldn't get enough time because it was like in his parents' laundry room. And so I think we recorded like 2 songs there. And then I did a lot of work with, so like I'd say like 16 to 21 or 22, I was always in like 3 or 4 bands as their violinist. And so I got to like record in the studio and get to know how that works and how live sound works. And then when we started recording stuff with the Los Angeles New Music Ensemble and with some of the bands we were doing stuff with, I would just plant myself behind the engineer and be like, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Yeah. And it was really like Christina was learning how to be a session producer and I was learning how to be an engineer with kind of the idea of like, she's really good at seeing what's there and knowing what to do to make it better, which is like, I always joke that she's Rick Rubin. So it's like Rick Rubin's magic thing is that he's a great musician,
Mm-hmm.
and he knows what it should happen next.
Yeah.
And there are bands that have hated working with him,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll say like he didn't do anything. It's like that's because you didn't give him anything to work
Yeah.
with, not because he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Um, and so I really learned the audio engineer side. She really learned the producing side of how you work with people, how you like get the sounds to be, how to do transitions. And then it started being like I was faster at editing and doing pitch correction than the engineers, just because like as a violinist, I have done pitch correction every day forever. Like my life is playing out of tune and then trying to fix it.
Yeah.
And so, like we did one session where like the engineer did most of the work. And then like for the second session, I was like, hey, I'm just going to do the edits. And then like, I feel like I'm finally good at mixing, but it took a long time. And I have a really different, there are some people who mix like I do, but like I'm very not into toys in my mixing stuff. I'm like, so I put the same reverb on everything. It's concerto bow, spaces, impulse response. I'm very particular with what reverbs I like. I like mid-size halls, like 800 to 1,300 people. I think any bigger than that, and it's not good for acoustic instruments. There's not really a venue that I like the reverb of in Oklahoma City. OCCC is the closest thing. But I'm like, why would I... If I'm doing acoustic instruments, why would I need to know any other reverbs now? I have one that works. I'm not pumping out enough stuff for people to be like, oh God, this reverb again. Like this producer only has one move. It's like, it's the sound I want. It's never not going to be the sound I want unless I'm doing something that's not an acoustic instrument.
Sure.
And then I really like the Lexicon reverb. And I don't really want to know more than that. Does that make sense? Like I don't want, I don't have fun choosing a reverb setting. That's not exciting for me in the mixing process. I just want it to sound good.
Yeah. Well, it also takes time away from being creative.
Right. And so that's kind of been my back door. Like I finally feel like I'm wrapping my head around mixing. So it's been this sort of like back door into that. And then you go like, oh, I've been doing this for 15 years. Cool. I kind of know what I'm doing now.
Sure.
But yeah, it's it takes a while, like for me, to get comfortable enough with the tool that the tool isn't getting in the way of me doing what I want.
Yeah.
And so for me, I've kind of like gotten that way with a lot of like, I'm that way with Finale. I have my own custom shortcuts, which is real nerdy. Because I'm on a laptop most of the time.
Yeah.
So I use the laptop shortcuts with some modifications.
Every time I use Finale, I say out loud, I hate Finale.
Cool. I love it. And I cut my teeth on it because I did engraving pretty heavily. So like Christina's old clarinet teacher hired me when she was doing her doctorate. He wrote like 2 etude books and Clarinet for Dummies, like the official Clarinet for Dummies, which was cool. And so I had to enter in like, I don't know, 200 pages worth of engraving.
Yeah.
And like I'm making no creative decisions. It's just, here's a piece of paper, make it look exactly like this 200 times.
Yeah.
And so I got really fast at it with that. And it means that like I'm fast enough at Finale now.
Yeah.
Like what I'm doing right now on the piece is the coda of the piece I have recorded, but I don't have it in Finale. Everything else I've gotten in Finale now. I'm literally just transcribing it. I am doing aural skills from like many years ago. Yeah. But like literally, that's the skill I'm using along with being fast at Finale. And like, I just sit there, I have my violin in my lap because like I audiate things. Like my fingers can sometimes bypass my brain for knowing what the notes are. Yeah. So it's like I listen to it and I play it back on my fiddle, just pizzicato so I don't get distracted and start improving. That's a problem. And then I look at it and go like, what did I just do? And I'm like, oh, I did that, enter it into Finale. That's kind of my process. So it's an interesting, like, I mean, it used to be when I got to that stage, like the transcribing and then trying to figure out how to make it sound right would just like kill my vibe hardcore. And now it's like, oh, okay, like I'm quick enough at this, I'm not losing the thread while I'm trying to get it on paper.
Sort of more broader philosophical questions. What makes art important?
Oof. Better say this right so we don't lose our funding. So for me, I like that there are people who disagree with me about art.
Sure.
And I like their art.
Yeah, no.
So whenever I say anything about art, I know I'm like being very Canadian right now and hedging all my bets. Say the views that I say are only indicative of the views that I apply to myself and
but
not
at the
others.
same time, like, this is you. I'm asking you.
Right.
You're not representing anyone else other than
No,
you.
absolutely.
And this is your name that's on the podcast. So,
so I think for me, art happens with people. Like there has to be someone. It's like the difference between a sound, like, you know, if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? And I'm like, well, it makes vibrations. It makes waves in air pressure.
Yeah.
But it's not a sound unless someone hears it. I've always been like, there's a very clear answer to that question for me, which is that like, it's making something that happens in a medium if it falls, but if there's not anyone to hear it, it's not a sound because it's not being interpreted as a sound. So there's kind of a Dadaist thing, is like art is what people interact with as art. But I also have, so art is anything that people interact with, but I have art that I find effective. I don't want to say like good and bad. I don't want to make like a moral judgment call on the art, but
that
like
it achieves what it's trying to do.
Well, not even if it's, so there is that. So that's, I definitely make judgments on artists depending on whether I think they achieved what they wanted to do. The art itself, especially like physical mediums and things that are less attached to the artist, I think they can achieve things outside of what the artist wanted them to achieve.
Sure.
So I think they can be failures for the artist, but still be effective art in a different way.
Yeah.
But I think what I find really interesting about art is that, so like, hate is a strong word. I disagree with the statement that music is a universal language. I think music is absolutely just as coded in culture and dependent on cultural norms as any language.
Yeah.
I also don't think music is like a language per se. So a lot of people like to give narratives to art and say like, this art is about whatever that thing is. I think art is an expression that is then experienced by someone else. And so I think you express something in art, but I think the mediums of art tend to be much less specific than language. So like with language, it's very easy to express exactly what you're feeling.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to express things that aren't...
They don't have words for them, for one.
Well, that aren't words for them, but also that are less specific. So like to me, there's sort of a lot of things that words do well, but it is not a perfect communicative medium.
Sure.
Like books, for example. Christina and I have worked on talking about stuff like this a lot. But like, so there's this false equivalency that people do with written word, that somehow literature and the written word, and this is part of a, colonialist European Western mindset, is somehow greater than like an oral history.
Yeah.
But the only way we can get people to understand books is to like have a teacher or someone who knows the book explain the context of the book and explain what they mean and why they wrote it a certain way. And there's this like whole back end because there's so many things that when you just write down the words, you don't have context, you don't have visual cues of how the person's feeling, you don't have voice cues of what their tone of voice is.
Yeah.
So there's all these things that are missing. And to me, music and art is like it's a way to express all of those non-verbal things. Sometimes the verbal things too, in a way that is communicative outside of just like you can have music that sounds like a yell. And it sounds like a specific yell or a specific shriek or a specific thing. And it doesn't have to be like that it sounds like, but that it feels like it. So how do you like get that feeling?
Yeah.
And we can try and do it with words, but art a lot of times is like, it is expressive of something that can then be interpreted. So I always feel like there's a level of empathy that occurs between art and someone experiencing the art. And to me, that's kind of like, even if the empathy's wrong, like even if the artist was trying to do something and the person got something else from it, like that's part of the power of art rather than a weakness. So like for me, it allows it to be, it's almost like the less specific you are with your art, but the more expressive you are, the more it can be like for someone receiving it an expression of exactly what they're going for. Yeah. Because you've taken off some of the like, I'm going through this and these are the specifics, but it's like, here is the general shape of this experience that I've had. Yeah. And then because of that, it's malleable enough that when you experience it, it fills that shape for you exactly. Yeah. And so you are experiencing your truth through the art, and you have this feeling of empathy with the artist, like they went through the same thing. Yeah. Even if a lot of the details are different because those details aren't in the art. Yeah. It's like words are solids and art is liquid. So art can kind of fill the container, whatever shape it is in you of that experience.
And that's why so often I hear about people saying like, oh, this artist, like, it feels like they wrote it for me or whatever.
And I mean, the art, it fits you, you know? So I think for me, I think art is a way to express humanity. I think it's a way to express ourselves and understand each other. And I think like that to me is the point. Like when I write music, it's because there's like things that I have, that there are things that music have made me experience. There are like moments and builds and these experiences that I'm like, this changed me. This was like an experience for me. Yeah. And so I want to give that to someone else. And it's almost like you try and, when you're doing stuff that's like sort of art, it's like the original art that had that movement for me might not be something that you have an experience with. I'm trying to interpret that experience and showcase, like there's a Max Richter thing where he did, he just did this very, it's not even that weird, like minimalist remix sort of like of the Four Seasons, which is like the most overplayed classical piece in the history of the world. But it's like what he did is he kept getting to these parts that like, I really like minimalism too. And he would get to these parts of the piece that were like these moments of beauty. And then he would just make them extend for like a minute and a half. Like, this is the part, you know, this is, and I really connected with that because there's a piece of mine that like, I had this ostinato that's just this 3-note little counterpoint chord thing that I lifted directly from this Bach sonata. That is like, I don't know, 1/150th of that movement of the whole piece. But like for me, it's like, no, like there's just something about this specific voicing on this instrument. And so I just like planted it there and just sat on it. And it was just like, listen to this thing. And so he was doing the same thing with that. So like there's many things that art does, but I feel like it is a way to express and to like I don't know a better way to like feel like other humans make sense than to see art that makes sense. And you go like, okay, like it makes sense.
We're brains trying to understand other brains. I feel like, well, it's hard to ask a question without it going everywhere.
Sure.
So I'll jump into the spirituality side of the thing, and then we'll see how much time we have for the broad things.
Sure.
What is the role of spirituality or religion in your life?
So, and you're going to say that I'm being Canadian and hedging my bets on this. I think people all find ways to make existence have meaning to them. And I'm not particularly interested in saying one is better than another. Like, I'm a big fan of, like science and all of those things, but like, we don't know that much. I mean, like, science is very, if you actually get into like where the research is now, you're reading the thing that like, this has been released, and the really good, if you don't understand something, if someone wrote something and you don't understand it and you've done the research, like you've done the back end stuff that you need to kind of get into that, to me, then it was not communicated well. Like there are some scientists who, and this is the same thing I try and do as a teacher, and this is what I believe of as an artist, who like being a good teacher is being able to make very complex things simple.
Yeah.
It's distilling it down so that like you don't want, if you're making something sound really complex, it's only helpful if like that's literally the simplest way that you can explain it. And like to me, the only way to have understanding of something is like little discrete simple steps, like one step at a time.
Yeah.
If you know this, okay, then this, then this. So when you get, I think there's always this assumption that science is like, scientists secretly, like the experts really know more than we do. And it's like, it only goes like 2 steps beyond what the public knowledge is. I mean, like quantum physics, if you have a cursory knowledge of quantum physics and then quarks and string theory, like to the point of like the jokes that they'll do on the Big Bang Theory are pretty much the edge of what that field knows. Even though that's like a not terribly sophisticated sitcom.
Right.
So
that's an understatement.
Yeah. So like science is really good at answering hypotheses. If this happens, then this happens. It's very, we have not really figured out why anything happens. Like anything. Like my favorite book as a kid was How Things Work. There's a lot of deep questions that I had answered at a very young age.
Sure.
Because like my parents had a copy of How Things Work in the bathroom. So I'd go to the bathroom and I'd be like, oh, the sky is blue because of, diffraction. Cool. Like the blue light tends to disperse in the atmosphere because of the makeup. That's why our sky's blue.
Yeah.
Why does the color blue diffract differently in certain gases than in others? We have no idea.
Yeah.
Like anything where you get like one step past like the physical.
Answer, yeah.
It's like we have no idea. Like quantum physics is, we had, until quantum physics was figured out, like before Einstein, it was very like, hey, we're figuring out how everything works.
Yeah.
Like there are these laws that are just true all the time.
Yeah.
Like gravity and magnetics and all of these fundamental forces all like act a certain way all the time, no matter what. The second you get into quantum physics, it's like literally none of that is true anymore.
Yeah.
So the thing with Schrodinger's cat, right? The cat is both alive and dead because there's a cat in a box and there is an electron that so there's the idea is that there's a radioactive, this is the part people don't usually remember. There's a radioactive item that if it goes into half-life, because half-life is just the average amount of time it takes for half of a material to decompose into simpler materials. So there is a box where if the electron is in place A, the cat is alive. If the electron is in place B, the cat is dead. So there's a thing where you can know the position of an electron or the speed and direction of an electron, but you cannot know both, because in order to know where the electron is, I know this is getting kind of far afield.
Right.
In order to know where the electron is, you need to basically hit the electron, which then stops it from moving. Like, that's how we know where the electron is. So you put your finger and see if it's there. So we have this thing in quantum theory where it's the electron is simultaneously in both places until you check. Maybe.
Yeah.
But we've never been able to check.
Yeah.
So is it? Or are we just assuming it is because we can't tell? Like, it's simultaneously in both spots just because we don't know how to check.
Yeah.
So to me, there's like, for spirituality, I have a code of ethics and everything that I very much run by. But I really think like everyone needs a way to assign meaning to existence. My big thing with this is, so like the placebo effect is a way for science to like name when, if certain attributes that should not matter make something happen. And it's one of the most, it's the placebo effect by itself is usually more powerful than most medicines that you can give someone. So because we have a name for it, the placebo effect, we assume somehow it's not important. Like, people of a certain religion who have a specific spiritual prayer done over them before surgery will have like a 60% better chance of getting through the surgery. And scientists can say, well, that's the placebo effect, because you've convinced the brain that they're going to survive, and it makes the body fight harder. And it has, like, that's a physical manifestation of that specific ritual working, though.
Yeah.
Like, the ritual worked. And you can be like, well, it didn't work because of that. It worked because of the placebo effect. And it's like, that's just another name for the ritual.
Yeah.
Like, so for me, like, I don't assume that my ways of assigning meaning are any more. I would never, like, if I have a religious, like, mantra, it's that I don't want to impose my religion on other people. That's really like, if there's like, because I think some people need it. And I think it's powerful for some people. And I know, like, my own, I think there's an assumption that, like, if something manifests in a physical way, it is no longer spiritual. And for me, like, just because I know something has physical attributes that can be tested in a lab does not make it less spiritual. Like, for me, existence and the pursuit of why things exist and why things are the way they are is itself a spiritual quest. And you can't, like, the assumption that science is somehow this, like, completely non-human, like, thing, to me is just not the case. It's humans trying to figure out meaning and why and how things
through our own lens, through our own senses.
Right. And so for me, it's, I mean, I was thinking about this the other time, so I'll give you, since I'm being so namby-pamby about this, I'll give you some specifics. So specifics for what have really been drivers for my life. My granddad died when I was 6 or 7. It was like a couple years before we moved down here. And he was a really big, like, he helped raise me. My family, this is very gendered and old-fashioned, but my family has, like, my mom's side had all girls for like generations on all sides. And so I was the first like male son, like male in the Thistle family for like 2 or 3 generations.
Yeah.
And he was like a scientist. His team invented the powdered egg recipe during World War II.
Wow.
He was a poet. His book of poetry came in second to Margaret Atwood's for the National Prize, and that was the thing that launched her career. He was like, any other year, I had to submit it the year that Margaret Atwood decided to have her breakout career and become like Canada's author. He wrote like short stories. He had this one that like I read growing up called Peter the Sea Trout that was about the sea trout, because like the way trout work is they like are birthed low in the river, and then to breed they have to like swim upriver, and it's really dangerous, and it's like the perfect young adult journey story. And it's just as good at, like, for me it was just like, oh yeah, this is my granddad's one, but it was just as good as like Narnia or any of the other ones I read. So he died from lung cancer because he smoked from age 12 to like 55.
Yeah.
And then he quit. And yeah. So I wanted 30 years more of him being around. And so I made a decision, like I saw him on the oxygen tank and it was like, you just watched him wither. So I was like, I'm not going to do anything that will shorten. I'm not going to self-impose my own death. If I die from, you know, whatever causes, then I do. But like, I'm not going to smoke. I'm not going to take any drugs that could affect my brain. I'm not going to do things that are like extreme sports that are actually kind of dangerous to try and get a thrill. Like I was like, I like this mode of existence. And I'm not like a crazy try and extend my life person, but I'm just not going to do anything because it's like, I wanted more of him, and I want like, hopefully there are people who will feel the same way for me. And I want to give them 30 or 40 more years of me.
Yeah. Your life is not yours, but it's everyone's, including yours.
Yeah. And so for me, that's like one of the driving things for me is like, I want to create art. I want to be part of humanity. And I don't want to do anything dumb to shorten it that then I'll be like, oh my God, it was not worth smoking. Like cigarettes were not worth losing 30 years. And then my grandmother, same side, got Parkinson's. And she lived through that for like 8 years. And, you know, it was... So watching her go through that, I was like, she didn't do anything to deserve that. There was not like... Not that he deserved to get lung cancer, but it's like he smoked and therefore he got lung cancer.
Sure.
Like there was an action that he took that he could have avoided. There was nothing she could have done to not get Parkinson's. Yeah. And it is like, you lose control of your mind, you lose control of your body. It's literally like, it is what I would imagine the closest thing to hell while being alive is. And so I saw that and I kind of went, well, it runs in my family. I know Parkinson's is a genetic thing. So the worst thing that could happen is I get Parkinson's and lose control of my physical being.
Yeah.
So everything else isn't really a tragedy. So for me, like that's a tragedy. That's something that like would be horrifying for me to go through. And if it happens, and I'll go through it and I'll figure it out. But like everything else became like, you know, like if something's hard or like someone's mean to me or whatever, you know, like but it is like people hold on to a lot of stuff. And I've just kind of been like, those are kind of my two driving, I mean, those were the two, it was a long time before there was another death in my family after that. So like I experienced those two, hers took a while.
Yeah.
But like my mom was the primary caregiver. So like, I saw the whole progression with both of them. So for me, if I don't have Parkinson's, I don't really have anything to complain about. Like I still complain, but it's kind of like that's a real tragedy.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because it's like,
you don't have to ask for the manager.
Yeah, no, I mean, so one of my greatest strengths is that I do not hold grudges.
Mm.
I do not hold grudges to the point people are like, you should be holding a grudge about that one,
Yeah.
like all the time.
Mm.
But I really do believe like forgiveness isn't about them.
Mm-hmm.
It's about you releasing
Yeah.
the power of what happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I am naturally very, very, very guilt-ridden if I do anything that I think has hurt another person. Like, I hold on to stuff from like, I have like 5 things in my life that I'm like, I really wish I hadn't done that. And I think about them. Like, I should be an anxiety-ridden mess. I should. Because like, I naturally have that tendency to like, really feel bad about actions that I've done if they hurt someone else. But I feel like my solution to that hasn't been to try and push those feelings down. It's been to try and act in such a way to not do. Like, the answer to being someone who gets very upset about hurting other people is to try and act a way that I won't hurt other people.
Yeah.
To me, and it's been like, I don't know, it's working. I don't feel guilty. You know what I mean? Like, it's a...
Yeah.
And so that for me is like, I don't like saying things about people that I would mind if they hurt. Anytime. Not like this is a safe time. Like, I don't trash talk people.
Yeah.
Because I want it to be like, because they always do hear about it. I mean, like, if you trash talk someone, if there's one truth in communities, it's like, so this is one of those things, it's like, I believe in karma. Now, do I believe in the traditional, that I don't know enough about to talk about in any way, but like resurrection and that karma has to do with future lives and things like that? I don't know. As far as I know, I've never died and been born again. Maybe I have. I don't know. Like, I only know this current bodily existence.
Sure.
But I do believe when you put positive energy out there, you will get positive energy back.
Yeah.
Now, what I don't believe is people who are like, if you put positive energy out there, you'll get it back. And if bad things happen to you, it's your fault. I think I am very lucky that I live in a, I mean, the term first world country is even bad, but like that I live in a situation, like someone could shoot me at any moment, regardless of whether I'm nice to people or not.
Sure.
That's not an expression of my current karmic level for me. That like, oh, it's because I was like mean to someone yesterday.
Well, it's the same with the Parkinson's example.
Right.
Like,
yeah, I don't think she was like being meted down a punishment from on high. So to me, you can only control what you put out. So to me, if you put out positive stuff, you get it back.
Yeah.
And when you put out negative stuff, you get it back. And just because that is expressed through the collective consciousness of humanity, like a lot of times I think the thing that I've never gotten is when people talk about collective consciousness as this sort of like outside force. Like there's this ether in which your karma resides. Yeah. Like to me, karma resides in the collective consciousness of living beings. So like, if I'm nice to someone, they will react. And it's not like a transactional situation. But in general, like if I'm a positive force on the way people feel, then people will feel more positively towards me, and that will affect the collective consciousness of my community around me, which will affect my life. Just because that is all something that you could explain about interpersonal relationships doesn't mean it's not a karmic force. Sure. Does that make sense? Like I always feel like spirituality-wise, the metaphors we use tend to be like forces and outside influences. And to me, it's more of a, like the way I imagine it, which again is just how I do it in my brain, is more like a web of interconnected
Yeah.
living beings that the overall Brownian motion of you putting positive stuff into that network will mean that there's more positive force in that network around
Yeah.
you. So yeah, I think like spirituality wise, those were two really defining, because it's like
Yeah.
my parents are still together. I had a very happy childhood. And I don't know, you can't separate this. I don't know how much of that is just my brain chemistry, is that I'm naturally inclined to be positive about these things, or if it's because I made a decision to and have practiced it.
Yeah.
I think it's some combination of the two. I think like there are people who, you know, have to struggle against their brain chemistry to feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's interesting. Like we talk about that, like I'm always very positive, but a lot of it is like, it's not that I don't have problems. I just don't particularly want to burden other people with them. Like that's not like, if we were having a lesson, I'm not going to tell you if I've had a bad day.
Yeah.
Because like, that's not something that's helpful for you.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting,
Yeah.
I really feel like that is a mantra of mine.
There are deeper questions, but this specific podcast has gone on long enough for the length of questions that I would continue to ask. So 2-3 more questions. Okay.
Sure.
What makes you happy?
So this is very unmillennial of me, according to how baby boomers talk about millennials. I love the feeling of finishing something, even though it's what I'm worst at, and then relaxing the day after I finish a huge project and just having absolutely no, I need to be working on this, I need to be doing that. Like, it's hopefully how I will feel on Friday when I send in this piece to all of my players, who are all incredible players, and they're all on deck to play the piece in like a week and a half. As long as I get them the parts.
Yes.
So that makes me really happy. I love seeing people that I know succeed, people that I really like succeed at what they're doing. And I love, so one of the things that I'm best at is learning stuff fast. Like it's a weird, like, I think my skill that's made me good at stuff. Because there are other people who are more like musically instantly talented than I am. I know it's kind of a catchy word to say talented, but there is like a natural proclivity to doing certain things that some people just have.
Sure.
I didn't just like naturally play stuff in tune. That was many years of very good teachers yelling at me constantly. So I love learning new stuff from smart people. And by smart people, I mean everybody. I love learning new stuff.
Yeah.
And like, I love having my like, that does make sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm a very like intuitive person, and I tend to, people get mad at me in high school for this all the time. 'Cause I had a bunch of friends who were debaters, and they'd be like, "Oh, we're going to debate," and I'm like, "Well, I really think it's this," and then they'd make a really cogent point. I'd be like, "Oh, you convinced me. Yeah, that makes sense." They'd be like, "What?
No, you're supposed to fight."
Yeah, you're supposed to argue with me right now. It's like, but you made a really good point. Like,
yeah.
You convinced me, you know. Isn't that what the point of this is? So I love that. I love like that sense of learning something new. And I really love the act of creating something that is something that I enjoyed. Like really my artistic life is all of the things I loved experiencing most as art, I want to make.
Yeah.
Like this is something that mattered to me, so I want to make that thing for other
Yeah.
people. It's like, for example, like whether or not this ever happens, but the book series, if I ever write it, one of the big things is I have a huge problem with like young adult fantasy novels, is that I think they are based on really racially suspect aristocratic social underpinnings of like, you get to be the protagonist because you're secretly a prince. So secretly you've just got the right genes.
Yeah.
And that's why you have this magic power that only you can have. Those other people, like it creates these like, it is a narrative of racial disparity that is coached in non-racial terms. Sometimes it's coached in extremely racial terms. That is not a vision of what I want the future to be. And I think that is a negative force to the world being the community that I am part of, which I really believe in like egalitarianism, and that like racial and gender, like you should never not be allowed to do something because of a physical attribute. Like I just don't believe in that.
Yeah.
And it is in like 99% of young adult fantasy literature that like someone is part of a specific magical race, and when they're going through adolescence, magically they can shoot fire out of their ears or whatever. So mine would be coached on the idea of practice, and the idea that like all the magical stuff that would be in it would be things that it's not like, oh, you were born with the innate magic talent, so you get to go to the special school.
Yeah.
It's practice. And like for me, good fiction is a way of taking real cultural community things and placing them in a perfect scenario for you to highlight it.
Yeah.
Like that to me is, if I'm writing fiction and it's not commentating on some aspect of human existence, I don't really know what it's doing.
Sure.
So for me, that's something that like I think it's hugely like the whole wizard muggle thing in Harry Potter is hugely culturally programmatic.
Yeah. And she's doing something with it to like try and make it a little bit more
right.
But yeah.
And that's, I mean, and she's not by any means the worst of it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something about like, if you reread The Lord of the Rings, and this has been done, someone wrote this from the perspective of Sauron, of like, this is a group of like aristocratic Western European, like royalty based, you know, like these are monarchies. They're fighting against the horde of invaders that have technology, and like, you can really read it as like, it's the old European aristocracy fearing the onslaught of progress and technology and like egalitarianism. Like,
There's
well,
a lot of fantasy,
this special race of like humans that lives 4 times as long as everybody. Like, and then they've been kings for forever and ruled over these people, and you're kind of like, I'm kind of with the like uprising people here. Like, I mean, let's be honest, you haven't done a terribly good job of like running things. So for me, it's important that like, if I'm going to write fiction, what I'm trying to do is to get, it's like, this is weird, but like, I really believe that like, whether or not you are controlling it, there is going to be a moral to the story, especially if it's like young adult fiction. If it's young adult fiction, then it's usually about adolescence and going between like being a dependent to being an adult. And everything you put in there, like the medium is the message. Like everything in there is sending a message to those kids. So like, I don't want to send a message to kids that like, you didn't get born in the right circumstances, so too bad. Or like, it wasn't super easy for you. So like, my main character in that book is not going to be the best one. There's going to be someone else who's better. Yeah. Because, and part of it will be coming to grips with that and like working hard and becoming, like it's, those are the things that I want it to grapple with. That was a long answer for what makes sense.
What advice do you have for people?
But just generally?
Yep, just whatever general advice.
I think being kind goes a long way.
Yeah.
I think every day I have like... No, I mean, there are some situations where anger is needed because being kind is not working.
Mm-hmm.
But I say that. I don't practice that. But I'm also in a position where, I haven't been forced to.
Right.
But I just think like I'm given 100 opportunities a day to either like pull someone down a notch or two or just be kind. And I try to just choose to be kind every time. It just, I don't know. I think that's where a lot of like internal strife that people have. Because I can only speak to how I feel. I know like when I feel a great amount, like I get nervous about things, but when I feel anxiety about stuff, it's because I did something and I'm not sure if it was the right thing to do. And I don't want to admit that it was the wrong thing to do. And I'm, you know what I mean? Like that tears me up. And so I'm like, I don't want, I'm really not into like revenge and taking people down a notch.
Yeah.
And I just think like, if you're just kind to people and like, just do your thing, like whatever your thing is, like do your thing and be nice to people. And like, I think you get a pretty good life out of it.
Sure. Lastly, cake or pie?
Ooh. So I do love cheesecake. And ice cream cake and white cake and devil's food cake. But man, I was raised on fresh like berry pie. Like raspberries and blueberries and blackberries are like the crop in Ottawa. There's not a lot. But berries do really well. And so like good raspberry pie.
Yeah.
That's where it is. Apple pie with I do the slice of sharp cheddar, like 1950s style. Love it.
That's great. Patrick, thank you for doing this with me.
Thanks for having me.
Where can we find you and your things?
So you can check out my website, which is www.patrickconlonmusic.com. I update it about once every year to a year and a half, but it usually has generally what the big things are. And I'm going to be doing a lot coming up. Yeah. So it's exciting. I'd say, check out my stuff. I'm going toe to toe. Patrick Conlon is a very common name. So I've been, fighting for internet supremacy in the search with a tattoo artist from New York and former member of the Green Party in Australia and a couple other people. But I'm finally starting to get up there. So
I've actually, I've been thinking about how much would it cost to just buy Santiago.com. It's not taken.
Really?
Yeah, it's being taken up by a squatter.
Right.
But like it's not like the capital of Chile doesn't have it.
Right.
So
interesting.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I've thought about it.
Yeah.
If you own Santiago.com, hit me up. We'll talk about it. But yeah, no, at least you have the music one and that's specific. And
right.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited to see and hear whatever it is that you put out. And I'm very thankful to have you as a mentor and friend and teacher and whatever all of those words thank you for everything that you've helped me with.
Thank you.
I'm Santiago Ramones.
Patrick Conlon.
You can find everything that I do on my website, santiagoramones.com. I make music, which you can download my demo for free, Songs with Words. And you can also find this podcast on my website or on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts, on Stitcher, and I think it's on Google Play and probably lots of other platforms that I don't know about, but they get syndicated out to everywhere else. I always end my podcast with my 3 things. They shape my life philosophy. Those 3 things are: love never fails, it's going to be okay, I might be wrong.